HOA Karen vandalized Vet's memorial bench, got 10 days in jail. The park was silent, except for the faint rustle of leaves and the distant hum of a lawnmower. Then came the scream, a raw, guttural cry that sliced through the morning calm like a knife. Who did this to my father's bench? Maggie Harper stood frozen, her hands gripping the edge of the wooden bench, her knuckles white as bone. The memorial she'd spent years fundraising for, dedicated to her father, a Vietnam War veteran, was unrecognizable. Deep gouges marred its surface, as if someone had taken a crowbar to it. Red spray paint spelled out crude insults across the plaque that bore her father's name. The flower beds around it, lovingly planted by the community, were trampled, petals strewn like confetti after a storm. Maggie's chest heaved, her grief colliding with a fury she hadn't felt since the day she buried her dad. This wasn't just vandalism. It was a desecration. The bench, nestled in the heart of Willow Creek's community park, was more than wooden nails. It was a symbol of sacrifice, a place where veterans and families came to reflect. Maggie's father, Sergeant Thomas Harper, had been a local hero, a man who carried shrapnel in his leg for decades but never stopped coaching Little League or helping neighbors rebuild after floods. The bench was his legacy, funded by bake sales, car washes, and donations from every corner of this tight-knit town. Now, it was ruined. Whispers rippled through the gathering crowd. Neighbors, dog walkers, and joggers stopped in their tracks, drawn by Maggie's cries. Who could do this, one woman muttered, clutching her coffee cup. This is sick, said another, a retired teacher who'd known Thomas personally. Maggie's eyes scanned the faces, searching for answers, but all she saw was shared outrage. Then, a familiar figure emerged from the edge of the park, her blonde bob bouncing with purpose. Her lips pursed in that telltale smirk. Karen Whitaker, the self-appointed queen of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, strode forward, her high heels clicking on the path. Karen was infamous. She'd terrorized the neighborhood for years with her endless complaints: grass too long, mailboxes too colorful, kids' bikes left on driveways. She'd once fined a family $200 for planting tulips instead of roses, claiming it lowered property values. But this was a new low, even for her. Maggie's gaze locked onto Karen, her instincts screaming. The woman's smug expression, the way her eyes darted to the bench and then away, it was too deliberate. Karen, Maggie said, her voice low and trembling. Did you have something to do with this? The crowd hushed, heads swiveling. Karen's laugh was sharp, like glass breaking. Me? Why would I touch that old thing? I'm just here to make sure this park stays presentable. She gestured at the bench, her manicured nails glinting. Honestly, it was an eyesore. Maybe someone finally decided to spruce it up. The words hit Maggie like a punch. She stepped closer, her boots crunching on the gravel. An eyesore. That bench was for my father, for every veteran in this town. You think this is funny? Karen's smirk faltered, but only for a second. She tossed her hair and shrugged. I'm just saying. Maggie, maybe it's time to update the park. Not everyone wants to stare at a shrine all day. The crowd gasped. A man in a flannel shirt, a veteran himself, stepped forward. You're out of line. Karen, he growled. That bench meant something to us. Others nodded, their murmurs growing louder, angrier. Karen's eyes narrowed, sensing the shift. Don't make this about me, she snapped. I'm not the one who wrecked it. Maybe you should ask those teenagers who loiter here at night. Maggie's hands shook. She wanted to believe Karen, to think this was just another of her cruel jabs, but something in her gut told her otherwise. Karen had been vocal about the bench before, complaining at HOA meetings that it cluttered the park's aesthetic. She'd even tried to have it removed last year, claiming it violated some obscure bylaw. Maggie had fought her tooth and nail, rallying the community to save it. Had Karen taken it this far? As the tension simmered, a new figure shuffled into the crowd, an older man, stooped and gray-haired, carrying a toolbox. It was Mr. Callahan, the park's volunteer groundskeeper, who'd known Maggie's father since their army days. His eyes widened at the sight of the bench, and he dropped his tools, his face crumpling. "Oh, Tom," he whispered, running a hand over the scarred wood. Then he turned to Maggie, his voice shaking. "I saw something last night. Didn't think much of it then. But it was her." He pointed at Karen. "She was here, after dark, with a can of paint and some tools. I thought she was just, I don't know, fixing something." The crowd erupted. "You saw her," Maggie demanded, stepping toward Karen, who was now backing away, her face pale. "You did this, didn't you? You destroyed my father's memorial." Karen's mouth opened, then closed, her usual confidence crumbling. I was just, it was a prank." I didn't mean. Her words were drowned out by shouts. "A prank," the veteran in flannel roared. "You defaced a veteran's memorial for a prank." Karen's eyes darted wildly, searching for an ally, but the crowd was a wall of fury. She tried to pivot, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "You're all overreacting. It's just a bench. I was trying to make a point. This park deserves better than some old, rotting wood." Her words only fueled the fire. Maggie lunged forward, stopped only by the veteran grabbing her arm. "You don't get to decide what this park deserves," Maggie spat. "You don't get to erase my father's memory." The confrontation reached its peak as a police cruiser pulled up, lights flashing. Someone in the crowd had called 911 and two officers stepped out, their faces grim as they surveyed the scene. Maggie pointed to the bench, her voice breaking. "She did this. She admitted it. Arrest her." Karen's bravado vanished entirely. "You can't prove anything," she shrieked. But Mr. Callahan stepped forward, holding up his phone. "I took a picture last night," he said quietly. "Didn't know why at the time. But it's her, clear as day, with the paint can." The officers approached Karen, who was now trembling, her defiance replaced by panic. "This is a mistake," she cried as they cuffed her hands. "I'm on the HOA board. I have rights," but the crowd wasn't listening. They cheered as the officers led her to the cruiser, her heels dragging on the gravel. Maggie stood rooted, tears streaming down her face, staring at the ruined bench. The damage was done, but justice was coming. The fallout was swift. By noon, the story had spread across Willow Creek like wildfire. Social media exploded with photos of the vandalized bench, hashtags like #CurnaJustice4Tom trending locally. Karen's HOA reign of terror unraveled as neighbors shared their own stories of her bullying, fines for minor infractions, threats to foreclose on homes, even harassing a single mom for her son's skateboard ramp. The town council called an emergency meeting, and by evening, Karen was stripped of her HOA position. Her husband, humiliated, issued a public apology, but Karen herself remained silent, locked in a cell for the night. The trial was a spectacle. Karen, dressed in a crisp blazer as if she could still charm her way out, pleaded not guilty, claiming she'd only redecorated the bench to start a conversation. The judge wasn't buying it. Mr. Callahan's photo, combined with testimony from Maggie, the veteran, and half a dozen neighbors, painted a damning picture. The prosecution leaned hard on the emotional weight of the crime. Defacing a veteran's memorial wasn't just vandalism, it was a betrayal of the community's values. Karen was sentenced to 10 days in jail, 200 hours of community service, and a $5,000 fine to cover the bench's restoration. The courtroom erupted in applause as she was led away, her head bowed. Maggie didn't attend the sentencing. She was at the park, sanding down the bench's scars with a group of volunteers. They worked in silence, each stroke a small act of healing. The community rallied, raising funds to not only repair the bench, but to add a new plaque honoring all local veterans. Mr. Callahan, still shaken, planted fresh flowers, his hands trembling as he whispered, "For you, Tom." The park felt alive again, filled with purpose. But the story didn't end there. As the bench was restored, the town grappled with bigger questions. How had Karen wielded so much power for so long? Why had people tolerated her petty tyranny? The HOA was restructured, with new rules to prevent abuse. Maggie, once quiet and reserved, became a voice for change, speaking at council meetings about unity and respect. The bench, now polished and gleaming, stood stronger than ever, a testament to resilience. Karen, meanwhile, faded into obscurity. Her 10 days in jail were just the start. Her reputation was shattered. Neighbors who once feared her now ignored her, and her social media accounts went silent. The woman who'd once ruled Willow Creek with an iron fist was reduced to a cautionary tale, her name synonymous with selfishness. The restored bench became a gathering place again. Families left flowers, veterans shared stories, and kids played nearby, unaware of the drama that had unfolded. Maggie visited often, running her fingers over her father's name, feeling the weight of his legacy. She'd fought for him, and she'd won not just for him, but for everyone who believed in something bigger than themselves. What do you think? Was Karen's punishment fair, or should it have been harsher? Share your thoughts. Let's talk about what justice really means in a community like this.